Hey guys, this is Jim, WT1W, and you're watching FEPLabs Radio. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. So I want to share with you in this video something that the Smoking Ape and I have been looking at the past few days. We honestly are baffled, both of us. So a little bit of setup for this video, and this isn't a long video. Ape and I both have Rigol 5074 oscilloscopes. We bought them within a couple days of each other. I bought mine first. He said, "Oh, I cannot have that. That will not stand." And then he bought one too because he wants to be like me when he grows up. So we've had these scopes for a couple of years, I think. Great scopes, seems to work fine. Done a lot of videos with them, so on and so forth. So we got to looking the other day, and he's seeing weird values on his scope, not what he's expecting. And so he's telling me all this, and I'm like, okay, well, let me set up that same test on mine and see what I get. Because I thought possibly, and no offense, Ape, that it was user error. Chair to keyboard short. Happens to the best of us. And I set up the same test on my Rigol scope. By the way, identical firmware on both scopes. And I got the same weird results. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And he's like, yeah, see what I mean? So I did some more testing. And I did more testing. And every time I thought I'd figured something out, I went down a new rabbit hole. And so this is the results of the rabbit hole that Ape and I have dug and gone down. Very weird. What I want to show you is some testing from 3 different oscilloscopes, a Rigol 5074, the Siglent 2202XE, and the Owon 2102S. The Rigol is a 350 megahertz scope. The Siglent is 200 megahertz, and the Owon is 100 meg. For the purposes of this video, we are going to do the same exact test on all 3 with an external signal generator, and I'm going to show you that right now, and then we're going to get into the tests. So this is the setup. This is a uni-t UTG962 signal generator, arbitrary waveform, function generator, whatever. It is 2-channel, and I have both channels set up the exact same way. You can see here on the screen, they're both set for high Z, that's high impedance output. The signal generator can output 50 ohm impedance signals, but for our test, we're using high impedance. Both of these channels are set up for 1 kilohertz signal. I know that looks like a trillion or something. It's 1 kilohertz. It's the way this thing displays numbers in kind of a weird format. It is a 1 kilohertz signal. The signal is set up at 1 volt peak to peak, and the offset is 0 millivolts, and the phase is 0. Both channels are identical, same settings for both channels. All right, that is the setup on the SigGen. Now the Rigol oscilloscope has a built-in signal generator, and I've also tested with it, and I got the same weird results with the onboard SigGen. But for this test, we're going to use an external one and use the same exact SigGen with the same exact settings for all 3 oscilloscopes that I'm going to show you in this test. The other thing that we're doing is we're using these 2 cables. We're not using oscilloscope probes. We're using straight through BNC cables. These are, I don't know, brand new. I've had them a couple weeks, and I bought them specifically for hooking up to the oscilloscope. So I had a good set of cables for the scope. That is the setup. So the next thing that we're going to jump to is we're going to take a look at the Rigol screen, and I'm going to show you the test. Then we're going to look at the Siglent screen, and we'll show you the test. And we're going to look at the Owon screen, and I'm going to show you the test. I will tell you one other thing before we jump into it. Ape and I, when we started, had the exact same firmware on our scopes, and our initial thought was, this is a bug in the firmware. Yep, probably is. So Ape upgraded the firmware on his scope. The version we had was a couple years old, so he grabbed the new firmware from Rigol, installed it, and he still had the same problem. So, very strange. The whole thing is strange. Stick with me. Let's look at some tests. Okay, so I've got this scope set up, and this is the Rigol 5074. This is the same exact scope that Smoking Ape has. I want to show you guys the settings on the scope side. I've showed you the Siglent, or excuse me, the uni-t Sig generator settings. So on this guy, we have channel 1 on, and channel 1 is going to be AC coupled. There's no bandwidth limitations, and we have 1x attenuation. And switch to channel 2, and channel 2 is going to be AC coupled, no bandwidth limitations, and 1x attenuation. Once I quit turning it off accidentally. So those are set. We have our measurements down in the lower right corner over there, VPP2 and VPP1. And with the exact same signal coming out of the signal generator, I see 1.1 volt and 116 millivolts. So your first thought is, well, you have 10x attenuation on. Nope, you saw it. It was 1x. It is absolutely 1x. The signal generator is putting out high impedance, 1 volt peak to peak at 1 kilohertz, and we are not seeing 1 volt peak to peak on channel 1. Now, if I disconnect channel 1 and I move it over to, let's say, channel 3, I'm going to turn on channel 3, kill channel 1. Let's bring channel 3 into line. Kill channel 1. Just one time, Jim. Get it about the same. So let's go to measure. Let's add channel 3. And let's turn on VPP. Get rid of that. Go to channel 3's settings. Make sure he's AC coupled. Go back and double check channel 2 and make sure it didn't reset me. It did. Doesn't really matter for this particular demonstration. And you can see the same cable on channel 1 that read 111 millivolts on channel 3 is now reading 1 volt. Where's my mouse? Where's my screen? Oh, Lordy, I'm confused. Both of these are reading 1 volt. So it's something with channel 1. Jim, channel 1 on your Rigol scope is messed up. Kind of weird. Let's see what the Siglent looks like. Stand by. Okay, we're over on a different scope. This is a Siglent 2202XE scope. I've had this scope, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and it works fine. I got a deal on the Rigol and I bought it. Same one that Ape has. We both have the same Rigol scope. So this is our same measurements on the Siglent scope. Let me get my face out of the way so you can see the entire screen. Okay, so now with my big head out of the way, we got a better look at this. So what you can see here is that on the bottom of this screen, and the mouse cursor is a little janky in this Windows app, across the bottom of the line where it says measure, you can see some measurements in purple and yellow. So purple is channel 2, yellow is channel 1, and the value we're looking at here is the peak-peak, PK-PK. And on channel 2, we have 1.08 volts, and on channel 1, we have 448 millivolts, 0.448 volts. So again, pretty much half of our input value. I've changed nothing on the signal generator. As a matter of fact, the signal generator hasn't been turned off when I swapped scopes. Pretty strange. 2 different models of scopes with the same kind of thing going on. So you think that's weird? It's going to get even weirder. Stick with me for the third part of this little adventure and let me show you some other stuff. Mind's about to be blown. Okay, example number 3, and I promise it's the last one. This is the Owon scope. This is the HDS 2102S. This is a 2-channel, 100 megahertz scope. Not exactly a high dollar piece of gear. It was, I don't know, about $180, $200, something like that. And I have it set up with the exact same test. The signal generator has not been turned off. Nothing has changed with the SigGen. And look at the readings we get on the Owon. And I'm sorry I can't share the screen on this guy. There is no way for me to do that I'm aware of. I got to kind of hold everything so it doesn't bang against the side of the desk. And if you look closely at the bottom, this might focus, we are seeing 1 point blah blah, let's call it 1 volt peak to peak, 1 volt peak to peak, channel 1 and channel 2 on the budget scope. What? Wait, what? Have no idea. Have absolutely no idea. This scope was set up the same way, did the default, then brought in the settings and turned on channel 1 and channel 2, set it for AC coupled, and that's what we have. I have no freaking idea. So 2 scopes that cost considerably more than this scope don't give me the right data. Guys, that's what I've got for this video. If you have any clues, I would love to hear it in the comments. What Ape and I have discovered is this. It's not just the Rigol, it's the Siglent, as I've shown you. The Owon seems to work fine. Ape's values on his Rigol are half of what my values are. I'm showing 0.5 volt and 1 volt on channel 1 and 2 respectively. He's showing 1/4 volt and 1/2 volt on channel 1 and channel 2 respectively. I don't know off the top of my head what he's using for a signal generator. He's only got the Rigol scope. The Rigol has a built-in signal generator. I've done these same tests with the built-in SigGen on the Rigol scope, and I get the exact same results, 1/2 volt and 1 volt on channel 1 and 2. If I move the channel 1 cable off of channel 1 over to 3 or 4, I get 1 volt all day. The Siglent scope is only a 2-channel. Both channels, channel 2 shows a full volt. Channel 1 shows 1/2 volt. Again, the SigGen is putting out 1 volt on both of its channels. Both readings should be identical. And then we have the Owon here, which shows 1 volt on both channels. So I have no idea what is going on with this. I am completely baffled by the results. We have high impedance inputs on all 3 of the scopes. We have high impedance output on the SigGen. So that shouldn't be a problem. If we had a mismatch there, basically if one is a 50 ohm, if it's putting out 50 ohm and the scope is expecting high impedance, you've essentially put in a voltage divider and you would see half voltages. We haven't done that. We're not seeing that at all. The Rigol scope cannot change the input. It is high impedance. The Siglent lets me change the input impedance to 50 ohm or high Z. Doesn't matter. Either way, getting the same values. I've gotten these results across 3 different scopes that I have here. If you've got any idea, I'd love to hear it. Please drop something down in the comments and tell me I'm an ignorant monkey and I shouldn't touch powered on electrical equipment, because I would love to know what's going on. Y'all, that's all I've got for today. I appreciate you watching. If you would give me a thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, ring the bell so whenever I post any new dumpster fire content like this, you get notified. Have a good one. 73.